Before we get started, we just wanted to thank Old Republic Surety for sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety, as well as NASBP's virtual seminars for the third year in a row. For more information on Old Republic Surety, visit www.orsurety.com. Now, on to our show.
You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Shamapande. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Let's Get Surety. To help me today on today's podcast, we've got my co-host, Mark McCallum, CEO of NASBP. Hey, Mark.
Hi, Kat. Great to be here.
Thanks for being on the podcast. And today we're going to be talking about blockchain. I don't know. This is an issue. Blockchain, I get confused just with the word itself. So I know that it's important that we've got someone who's an expert in this to chat with us. Greg Davenport. He's a senior vice president of global risk at Liberty Mutual Surety. And he also serves as chair of the ICISA Risk Stream Collaborative initiative. So, Greg, before we get started, it's great to have you with us.
It's great to be here. Good to be with you, Kat and Mark.
And before we dive into the deep waters of blockchain, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Liberty Mutual, and the Risk Stream Collaborative?
Sure. Well, first of all, you give me a lot of credit for being a blockchain expert, and I hope I don't disappoint. But I'm more of hopefully a surety expert. I have about 38 years of surety experience, having started literally a week after graduating college, mostly as an underwriter. And about the last half of my career, I've been very involved with operations and technology. But I too am learning about blockchain, as many of you all are. And the Risk Stream Alliance is a collaborative for that focuses on blockchain solutions for the insurance industry. And I believe you asked about ICISA?
Yes.
Yes.
And ICISA is the Insurance and Credit Insurance and Surety Association, or International Credit and Insurance Surety Association, based in Amsterdam. They were founded in 1928 as the first credit insurance association and have been in surety since the 1950s. So ICISA works very closely with the Surety and Fidelity Association of America, NASBP, PASA, Surety Association of Canada, and others, and have helped facilitate bonds and have members in pretty much all the countries around the world that do surety business. And part of what led to this was ICISA's leadership in wanting to explore blockchain solutions for both surety and trade credit.
So, Greg, I think it's probably fair to say that the surety industry has not always been at the vanguard of technology adoption, but yet we've always wanted to move towards greater efficiency and find ways to make the execution and distribution of bonds easier for all involved. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about why you think blockchain as a technology offers us an opportunity to do so? And maybe just in very simple terms, what is meant by blockchain technology?
Sure, Mark. Well, first of all, blockchain, it's also referred to as distributed ledger technology. I know many of in the audience are familiar with financial transactions and accounting and all, and maybe that's an easier way to think about it. As we, make an entry into a ledger, we might add and subtract, and we'll date it, record it. That's really what blockchain is. It's a secure ledger that facilitates the process of recording transactions and tracking activities in a business network. Now, most people have heard of Bitcoin, and oftentimes Bitcoin and blockchain are associated with each other, or even thought to be synonymous. Well, Bitcoin uses blockchain technology, but blockchain is not Bitcoin. The reason Bitcoin uses blockchain is because there was a desire for cryptocurrency that did not require a central monetary authority. And that's part of why we are talking about blockchain for surety. And I'll explain that in a minute. But the idea that we don't have to have a third-party trusted intermediary, yet we can secure the surety transactions that we're interested in. That is part of the appeal of blockchain. It's called blockchain because blocks of the record that confirm the time and sequence of transactions are linked together, one building upon the other. So that's really kind of the simple explanation for why it's called blockchain. So why is it relevant to surety? Well, because we have multiple parties that must sign a bond, for instance, and we need to prove to all the Gs that the bond documents are secured and they're signed at a date and a time that show, who they are, who the signatures are, and that the dates are, they signed them when they said they signed them. And that same thought could be used for underlying contracts themselves, even indemnity agreements. So we believe we being the ICISA blockchain working group, but also our work with the NASBP Technology Committee and the officers of NASBP, Surety and Fidelity Association of America, PASA, and others, believe that there's a lot of potential application for surety. But as you mentioned, we want to start with this power of attorney repository concept because we believe it's foundational for everything else that can build upon it.
And the power of attorney repository, as you said, that's something where you want to start with. I imagine you looked at different aspects of the surety process, and I guess power of attorney repository was at the top in terms of what you thought the industry needed to start with. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure, and I know you kind of asked a bit about history, and this is all related to kind of that holy grail we've been chasing, Mark and Kat, of trying to find solutions to make bonding electronic. And certainly we're all finding that with the COVID-19 and having to work from home, not being able to get into offices, that now more than ever, the ability to be able to execute bonds without having to have paper and seals and all those things is paramount. So this has been building for some time. And actually, the history kind of goes back about 15 years that we, specifically the NASBP and the Surety and Fidelity Association Joint Automation Committee, were looking at how can we support electronic bonding, particularly for all the Gs that were looking for a solution that they could just kind of plug into. And at the same time, Accord, the data standards body that both NASBP and SFAA support, had announced a new standard for a repository standard to actually support the Lloyd's market over in London, so that underwriters didn't have to carry the package to different syndicates to literally physically sign it. They'd instead put that out on a repository that people would go to and they would sign on for their shares. So I thought, gosh, this could be relevant for our bonds and our power of attorney. The reason we start with power of attorney is because it was kind of that lowest common denominator, and it'd be a simpler implementation. Security concerns were a little bit less. So it was really kind of more the idea of proving the concept and getting some real benefit out there. But the end game was always envisioned to be the bond itself. So we started off actually building this with a third-party trusted intermediary. And unfortunately, that entity got into some issues with intellectual property, and the initiative died. Well, it's kind of set on the shelf for all these years, and then blockchain comes up. And as I mentioned, the beauty of blockchain is you do not need that third party intermediary. So we thought, let's explore this again through the lens of blockchain. And at the same time, ICESA happened to be in a position that they wanted to fund development of some, they call them use cases, but proofs of concept for both surety and trade credit. And power of attorney repository is the one that they chose.
Well, Greg, ICESA really should be graduated for taking leadership in this area. And I know they identified Riskstream Collaborative as a technology partner to explore the concept and to move it forward. Could you tell us a little bit more about Riskstream Collaborative, who they are and why they're uniquely qualified to assist in this area?
Sure, Mark. I'm happy to. Before I do, though, I too give ICESA a lot of credit for taking the initiative. I do want to mention that a number of people and entities, especially NASBP, have been leading the charge to explore blockchain. There's been a lot of discussion around the insurance industry by NASBP, SFAA, Accord that I mentioned. Some sureties have even built their own blockchain solutions already. So there's been a lot of talk about it. To ICESA's credit, I believe they're the first that have actually put some resources and funding to actually take it beyond the talking stage, aside from what I mentioned with individual sureties doing their thing. But ICESA also has recognized that to be a true solution that is widely adopted, it needs participation by the industry worldwide, and that is why ICESA has reached out to NASBP, SFAA, PASA, and others to participate. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but I do want to give credit where credit's due, that there has been a lot of thought leadership on the part of NASBP as well. And in fact, NASBP had also engaged some with Riskstream Collaborative, which you asked about. So Riskstream Collaborative is the risk management and insurance industry's first enterprise-wide blockchain consortium. It's not for profit, which is a positive. We believe that will help with when it comes to pricing. Should a real production-ready blockchain repository be built, which is, of course, our hope. And it's also owned 90% by the institutes. And the institutes, for those that haven't heard of them specifically as, quote, the institutes, they're the leading provider of risk management insurance knowledge education, including CPCU. So that's how most of us know of the institutes and the great work that they do. So part of the thought process or decision process in choosing Riskstream to work with involved their history, which, albeit blockchain isn't very old, so the history doesn't go back too far, but it goes back further than with Riskstream than any other consortium. They have a lot of backing and a real solid organization structure that we can build upon rather than create something from scratch. They have proven technology that they use, and they have shown an interest already in surety before we even approached them, and that's a positive too. So it was a great timing and kind of meeting of the minds that they had an interest in expanding beyond insurance over to surety, and of course, ICESA, NASBP, and others have been interested in finding a partner who can help take this forward.
Well, Greg, I know I'm very encouraged by the thoughtful process that ICESA and Riskstream have articulated to date, and that they want broad stakeholder input, broad input from the bond producer community, which I think is wonderful. And certainly that will go towards making the system and the technology very, very efficacious and very helpful to the industry. What can you tell us a little bit more about the process going forward? And is there going to be a working group or working sessions? And then what happens from there?
Sure. So we are at the point of Riskstream now setting up some workshops and facilitating those workshops. We expect that there'll be a series of about 3, possibly 4, virtual, of course, and open to anybody that wants to participate. There's absolutely no cost to anyone, no requirement to be a member of Riskstream Collaborative. We are inviting anyone and everyone who wants to have a seat at the table and bring perspective to this, so that it truly is an industry initiative that folks feel ownership with. The first workshop is tentatively scheduled, Mark and Kat, for February 17th. In fact, we have a timing, again, tentative, for 9:30 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We are trying to straddle about 9 time zones, because this will involve participants over on continental Europe and clear over to the West Coast, or possibly even beyond. These workshops will really be focused probably more on business issues than blockchain technology per se. So in other words, you don't need to be a blockchain expert to participate. What we want to talk about are more things that I want to call kind of governance issues. Like what's the business case behind blockchain? Why would someone want to participate? What's the benefit to an agent or broker to participate? What's the benefit to a surety carrier to participate or to put funding in? What would be the funding models for building a proof of concept and for a production repository? What's the benefit of somebody, for example, being a member of Riskstream Collaborative and paying dues versus somebody that isn't? This needs to be open. We've made it clear that especially to the obligees and our principals, it has to be open and no barriers for them to participate if they are to go in and check the validity of a bond or power of attorney in this case. So we'll be dealing with those type of issues, and then and part of this will also involve a deliverable, if you will, of a video that people like me can take to our chief bonding officers or our executives when we want to ask for funding of the next phase, which is a proof of concept, that explain succinctly the benefits of the repository and why it would behoove someone to invest in the proof of concepts. That'd be one of the deliverables too. That's mostly geared towards the surety carrier participants. But again, as you mentioned, we want to involve carriers, but also agents and brokers and the system solution providers that work with NASBP members and also those that provide solutions for some of the carriers that don't have their own systems.
Well, Greg, that is so interesting. And if the collaborative is successful in creating a power of attorney repository, do you think that could be applied, or similar blockchain technology could be applied to other aspects of surety bond distribution?
Oh, absolutely, Kat. As I mentioned, really the objective here is that we're hoping that is the first step towards actually having the bonds themselves be on the repository and truly get to be electronic. In fact, just this morning, I was on a call with a surety in Europe who has developed their own blockchain solution just for their own bonds in Germany. where the bond does sit on their blockchain. If someone wants a paper copy of the bond, like a PDF, it has a QR code that someone can scan, and it takes them right to the blockchain and validates the bond and the signatures and the dates and what have you. So absolutely, we expect that there'll be application for the surety bond that goes beyond the power of attorney, but also think about things like indemnity agreements, the construction contracts, those type of things. Now, those can be blockchain solutions. They may or may not be the same repository here because, they're different stakeholders, or a indemnity agreement, for example, could be something proprietary that the surety just has. But this really does, we hope, will prove the concept of blockchain and build trust that those in the industry can count on it and depend on it for secure transactions such as power of attorney, bonds, indemnity agreements, contracts, etc.
Greg, is there more information available on this initiative on ICESA's website or Riskstream Collaborative's website? Where can people go to learn more? I know NASBP will publicize the information about the working sessions, but are there other areas people can go to for more information?
That's a good question, Mark. We're working on that right now. I do not believe that you would find anything that you can go link to on ICESA's site. Riskstream, of course, has a lot of information about blockchain in general, but we're working with them as we speak to develop some content related to this initiative specifically. And as we work in the working groups, we'll be developing more content, including the kind of the cost-benefit analysis, if you will, and diagrams about how this works from a technical standpoint, et cetera. For the here and now, the immediate focus is, as you mentioned, getting materials to NASBP, PASA, and others that have agreed to publicize this, put their name behind it, participate as an association in the discussions, and get word out to the members so that people can register to attend. And we expect that there'll be the first of those messages would be, in the weeks leading up to that February 17th meeting.
Oh, that's great. Well, this is a fascinating subject, one that we know we're just embarking on the start of. I suspect, Greg, that you're going to get another invitation to come back and acquaint us with the advancements and the developments to date. And we really thank you for your time.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety, brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.
Before we go, we just wanted to say thank you again to Old Republic Surety for their generous support in sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety. For more information on Old Republic Surety, visit www.orsurety.com.